And Prabhupada always had this kind of glow, this glow about him. And so this guy was looking at Prabhupada, and he got this feeling that, do we even need this?
I don't think so.
Probably not. He got this thinking that, wow, I'd like to see what Prabhupada, I'd like to touch him. But it was kind of difficult because there were people around. So anyway, when Prabhupada was leaving, he was walking down the steps of the New Orleans temple to get into his car, and there were people on either side of the walkway leading up to the car, and letting as Prabhupada walked by, and this man was there. And so as Prabhupada walked by, he looked at the man. He stopped and he looked at him, and he walked over and he went, touched it on the arm. And then he got in his car and left. And the guy was, and people said, what was that all about? He said, no, I just had this feeling. I wanted to touch him, And then, so, Super Soul will talk to us if we listen, you see. If we can train ourselves to discern or discriminate when it's our false ego talking to us, if we can harness the false ego and drive it away, drive it down to where we can access our real ego. Real ego is I'm servant of Krishna. I'm eternal servant of Guru and Krishna. So that's called self-realization. Now I've realized myself. Now I know who and what I am. You see? So, as servant of Krishna, I do what he asks me to do. A servant does. Master says, go get me a cup of tea. We say, yes, gladly. Or whatever. So, Krishna says, hand me my flute, please. Yes. You see? So, when we start developing that consciousness that it's all about Krishna and it's not about me. Yeah, that's tough for some people because they think, well, isn't it a little bit about me? Well, it's all about you to Krishna. But it shouldn't be all about me to me. You see, it should be all about Krishna. So as we get to the point where we approach that point, then we realize that Krishna is talking to us. Super Soul is talking. Now, it's not like a big voice in the sky, but he'll lead you see. So the Super Soul may be speaking to you if you're giving a lecture, and you'll say something that Super Soul wants you to say. Guru and Krishna, they want you to say something because they're also in the heart of someone who's there in the audience. So many times I've had that experience where people come up and say, that's exactly what I was thinking. How did you know? I said, Krishna. I beg Krishna before I give a talk, my dear Lord, please use me as your instrument. I have nothing to say and I have no opinion of my own. It's just like the drum. The drum has no tune to play. The drum shows up with no agenda. And he's submissive to the drummer. Whatever the drummer wants, the drum does. You see? So, the devotee should be that way with Guru and Krishna. I have no desire of my own. My only desire is to please Guru and Krishna. And I want to be used as an instrument of Krishna. Knowing that if I can achieve that state of mind, then I'll become happy. I'll get more pleasure than if it was really all about me. So, and that's the difficult chore that we all have to overcome. To take me out of the center of my universe and replace me with Krishna. And then after Krishna comes me? No. After Krishna comes all other living entities. But people may say, well, where am I in this? When you become self-realized and you realize, I am an eternal, loving servant of the Supreme Godhead. Man, that tells you something, doesn't it? I'm okay. I don't have a worry in the world. I'm an eternal. I can't die. Nothing can happen to me. I'm an eternal servant of the Supreme Godhead. Therefore, I am under His care, control, and custody. Man, I am in a safe haven. I'm okay. I don't have to worry about me at all. I don't need any attention. I don't need, nor do I want, except to please Him and His devotees, you see. So when we get into a state of mind like that, then the Lord says, oh, very nice. Now you and I can operate, you see. Otherwise, it's part-time. You know, if it's like, well, all right, you know, Krishna, this week, I've got my agenda, you know, let's see. Krishna, my Lord, I've got you down for Tuesday from 7 to 9. And Thursday we can do lunch. So you're telling them, okay, here's the time that I'm going to allot for you. The rest of the time is for moi, you see. That's okay. It's not first class, but it's okay. It's a step in the right direction. And in time, Krishna will devour all of you. You give Him time, that loving relationship, and He'll take all of your attention because He's attractive. You become so attracted, and then ultimately you become attached. You're attached to Krishna, you see. And you'll spend your waking hours and your sleeping hours doing some sort of service for Krishna. You see, even when you're sleeping, you're scheming. How can I spread this movement? What can I say? You know, wherever you go, you may see something that will give you a topic. You think, oh, I can speak about that. Yeah, that would be good. It's always going on in your mind. You know, it's just this whirlwind of thoughts, things that people say, and things that you observe. You know, you think, oh, wow, my fellow man is like that. I need to talk about that. And then I think, oh yeah, Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, and I'm like, yeah, this is the verse. That's it. And it just comes to you from being aware, you know, keeping your ear to the ground. So, does that make any sense? You know, so, it's not, I mean, Prabhupada was constantly in communication with Krishna. So we may not be able to be constantly in communication with Krishna, but we can up the time that we are, you see, by listening and paying more and more attention. You know, Krishna's there with us as Super Soul, and He wants to have this Ras with us. He wants to have this relationship. You know, He wants you back as His servant, because He wants to have that loving exchange with you. So it happened with Prabhupada. It can happen with us too. That, you know, on the scale of Prabhupada, you see. But we're able to understand what Krishna wants. You got to think of yourself. You have to identify yourself as an instrument of Krishna. I am an instrument of Guru and Krishna. You know, as far as me, there's nothing there. You know, that I want to show you about me. Guess what? Let me tell you about me. You ever notice that about people? You know, they don't say it like in those words, but people get around. I listen to people when I go out walking and in stores. Sometimes I linger in a store and I act like I'm looking at someone, reading a label, and I'm really just listening to two people talk. Because I'm a little isolated from the world a little bit. You tend to be as devotees. So, and I listen to people. It's like some lady will say, little Jenny won a trophy for basketball, and the other lady will say, well, little Johnny is doing this and this and this. You know, Bobby has been accepted to Harvard. Well, Johnny has been accepted to Stanford. You know, so you tell me about you, I'm going to try to trump that with me. And I see this it goes on all the time. You see, and sometimes when we're talking with somebody, we see that we're talking, and they can't wait for you to stop talking so they can start talking about them. You know? Now that I've heard all about you, let me tell you about me. Oh, I can't wait till you hear this story. Wait till you hear about me. Ta-da-da! You know? So, why is that so interesting for us to make sure everybody knows about my story? You see? It's much more interesting if it happens to come up. I've seen people that you meet and you have to extract it from them. You have to say, tell me about yourself. And they say a little bit, and then you're really, and you know, and you're a much more interesting person if the people have to pull it out of you. Because, you know, I'm not so full of myself that I just have to tell everybody my story. To tell you the truth, you know, I think my personal story, other than being a devotee, has little to no meaning at all. You know, it was a life wasted until I met Srila Prabhupada. You know, the only thing that, the only good things in my life are the things that brought me to that point where I was able to surrender to Krishna. You know? So, other than that, I'd rather talk about Krishna. He is so much more interesting. You see? I don't feel that interesting. I'm interested in people and Guru and Krishna. See, as far as my story, I've heard it 1,000,000 times. I don't want to read that book again. You see? I don't see any reason to share it with anybody. Unless somebody's just dying to know something, you give them a little bit and then switch the conversation to something interesting, you know. Like, how can I help you go back to Godhead? You see? Or, how can you help me go back to Godhead? Depends on who you're speaking with. Either I want to help you, or I want you to help me, or let's help each other. You know, it's mundane this or that about me. I don't find particularly interesting from my side. Does that make any sense? Now, I wanted to say, you know, Halloween is a big holiday, for want of another word. Holiday. It's kind of like a holiday, isn't it? So it's so big that I was out at the park walking today, and what a coincidence. This is a really double coincidence. There was a bunch of people out there dressed as character. They all must have all gone out to the park for some Halloween costume contest or whatever. I don't know, but there was bunches of them out there, and every one of them was dressed as a soccer player. No, this is serious. Everybody showed up wearing the same costume, except half of them were wearing yellow and the other half were wearing green. And they all had different numbers. But I thought, wow, what a coincidence. You know, people would just show up. Everybody's coming to the party as a soccer player. Al, this is funny stuff, okay?
It's awesome.
Huh? Check and see if he's got a pulse, okay?
I just love listening to you. I just really, really do.
I thought about that yesterday when I was at the bus. I want to do this, pull this at Krishna Cove tomorrow. So, we're pretty much out of time. That's pretty much my message. Yeah.
Is there any anything from Vedas, from the Bhagavatam that you know of that is in any way somewhat similar to Halloween, in the sense that, you know, here they are scared. The whole idea of Halloween was to scare away the ghosts and goblins by dressing up. I wonder, is there any kind of layover that you know? Is there anything?
Well, Lord Shiva is the Lord and Master of the ghosts and goblins and things that go bump in the night.
Right.
You know, he's under his care, control, and custody. I don't know of anything like that. Yeah.
Today in my Celtic spirituality class, the professor was explaining that originally the reason that people dressed up in scary costumes was to scare the bad spirits away,
Right.
to remove them from the area. Doesn't that kind of go along the same lines as the same reason we blow the conch shell and burn incense and chant the holy names?
Well, actually, yeah. There's some things that ghosts in Sanskrit they're called Buddha, Buddha, B-U-T-H-A, pronounced boot, like the boot that you wear. The boots, Prabhupada will sometimes speak of the boots. And during the Arctic, the ringing of bells, ghosts, the Buddhas, that they hate that. They hate the ringing of the bell, smell of incense, they hate candles, ghee lamps. The sound of a conch shell will shred their heart, they have to leave the place. So that's not the only reason that we offer those, but those things have a real negative effect on the ghosts and goblins.
What is a ghost? Is it? I mean, because at the end of the life, there's, the idea that people go. They could go to a hellish planet. They could go to a heavenly planet. They could also turn into another animal or be reborn as a human.
Yeah.
How does a ghost come about?
A death like suicide, or maybe like an overdose on drugs, which is an accidental suicide. You see. It's like Jimi Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix. There's one of his albums where he took the universal form of Krishna, put that on his album cover with his face as Krishna.
Yeah, I saw that.
And someone showed that to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, "Oh, he will meet a horrible death." And it wasn't long after that he drowned in his own vomit,
Drugs.
drugs.
Yeah.
So, Bhuta body. He's a boot. So, the soul takes on a subtle body. You have a subtle body which doesn't necessarily have any senses per se. It has some perception, but so what does it want? It wants to enjoy. So it's very frustrated because it can't enjoy unless it finds a weak person that it can enter somehow. Sometimes the Bhutas are so strong that they can enter a weak person. And what's the term for that? They're
Possession?
possessed. They possess a person. And the Catholic Church has the what do we call it?
Exorcism?
Exorcism, yeah. The exorcism, right. I talked to Dr. Jorge about that. It's bona fide. The Catholic Church recognizes it. Srila Prabhupada, when he went to, that's a funny thing, we got time for a story? When the Beatles discovered us, they just went crazy, especially George Harrison. George and John especially. Lennon. They just thought, wow, these guys are like way cool. And George says, I have been wanting to meet. We were thinking, how's there a way we can hook up with the Beatles? What's the chance? What's the chance that you can go to London and not only meet the Beatles, but become their friend, you see? So the devotees had this idea. Mukunda Maharaj, he was Mukunda Das at the time, thought, let's just go to Apple. We'll go to Apple Records and we'll go outside and have kirtan, So he's out there one day. Sure enough, the Beatles pulled up, and they're on their way in. They stopped. They saw the devotees, and George Harrison said, "I've been looking all over for you guys. I knew about you. And I want to know your philosophy. Come on in, come on in." So it ended up George and John Lennon had bought this castle, and he thought it was really neat because it was haunted. He got it very cheap because it was haunted with ghosts. There were any boots there. And so he was living in it, and he and Yoko and others would do LSD and experience the ghosts. Sometimes it was pretty scary, for even him. So out back was this like a servant's quarters. Really nice though. It's better than most houses, you know. So John told Prabhupada and the devotees, why don't you come and live with me? I've got this nice house out back. Come and stay with me. This will be wonderful. So Prabhupada said, okay, we can do that. Yes. Well, actually, he had told the devotees that, and the devotees then sent for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada came. You know. So Prabhupada wasn't impressed with John Lennon. I mean, who are you? You're some rock and roll guy. So you're rich and famous. Okay, let's see if you can become a devotee. So anyway, when Prabhupada got there, John wanted to give him a tour of the castle. And so he's taking him up this round staircase that goes up, you know, which lots of castles have. And on the way up, they're letting Prabhupada lead, so Prabhupada's out front and everybody else is following behind. And then every so often Prabhupada would stop and would say, no, just leave this place. And then he would go a little further and stop. No, just leave this place. And they got to the top of the stairs, and John Lennon said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, who are you talking to? And Prabhupada said, oh, there were many ghosts here, but I have sent them away. We have no use for these rascals. And so the ghosts were gone. And Prabhupada says, but let's have kirtan, you know, to make sure that they're all gone. So the ghosts were gone. And so Prabhupada stayed with the devotees in the house out back. And it got to the point, see, John and Loco. John and Loco, that's a good name for her. Loco Ono. John and Yoko, they came off as, we want to save the world, you know, we want to do this, we want to do that. But they had a taste of fame and profit, adoration and distinction. You know, they were materialists. So they wanted to make money off Prabhupada. They thought, hey, I mean, they're acting like, oh, Swami, we're so charmed to have you here. Oh, your presence is purifying everything. But really, they knew this guy's got something. He's special. And we've got to find out what it is. Because if we can, and put it into our art, you know, sing about it and write about it, boy, you know, there's one on the charts. You know, then we're on the charts. But cha-ching. So John and Yoko asked Prabhupada if he would meet with them alone. Usually Prabhupada had someone with him, you know, one of his disciples would be with him. And they insisted. And the devotees were saying, no, Prabhupada doesn't. Prabhupada said, no, it is okay. It is okay. But what John and Yoko didn't know is that the devotees were outside the window. You know, they all went around there outside listening, you know, to the conversation. And so they got Prabhupada in there and they said, you know, come on, Swami, tell us your secret. And they kept on pressing. And Prabhupada says, well, he's being gentleman. It is not for you to know. And he's, oh, just chant Hare Krishna. No, there's something more that you have. Tell us. And they're pressuring Prabhupada. So finally Prabhupada said, cast not your pearls before swine. And he put them in their place. And then he just walked out. And so Yoko didn't like that. She thought, well, how dare you? You know. So Yoko started to twist John's arm to get rid of the devotees. You know, John was spending too much time out there with Prabhupada and the devotees. You know, George would come over, you know, all the time, and Paul McCartney would be there a lot, and Ringo occasionally, you know, he would twinkle in, and or twinkle out, one or the other. And so she just started pushing George, John Lennon, to get rid of, you know, it's time for them to go. And so John went and he said, Swami, I've arranged for you to move downtown. I hate for you to go. Prabhupada said, no, it is okay. We have overstayed our welcome. It is time. It is all right. You know. So, you know, John was very apologetic. So the Prabhupada and the devotees left. And that very night, all the ghosts came back. And they were worse than ever. And it got to the point where John had to sell the place at a big loss because it was just too much. So, and when we bought this castle in, I think it was in Hamburg, Germany. Srila Prabhupada lived there. And and he dismissed the ghosts. And there were some really bad ones. Their devotees were on the roof of this old castle in Germany. And they said that some of the ghosts, as they were leaving, they did kirtan all the way up the steps. And apparently the ghosts were going up, to the roof. And they got to the roof and had this, as the kirtan emerged to the roof, they could see, some of the ghosts they could see in kind of like semi-subtle forms running and jumping off the top of the castle. They were just like, ah! So, which enthused the devotees even more to really, get the kirtan going. So, there's different stories of the boots. But as Prabhupada said, we have no need for them. They're rascals. They mean no good. They want to enjoy very badly, and they can't. So they're very frustrated. So best that we leave them.
What do you think happens to the ghosts? Do they have like a lifespan where then they get kicked back and they're incarnated into a living being, or do they go to a hellish planet later? Or
I think it depends on
what
their
happens?
karma.
Yeah. Do you think that they can make their karma change as a ghost when they're stuck in that state?
I don't know, but I don't see how.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not like they're really nice folks to get into that situation to begin with.
I see.
So it's a bad situation to get into. If you destroy your body, then your karma is you don't get a body.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. It's what goes around comes around. You did some pious activity to get a human body, and you destroyed it. So, what's the karma for that? No body. See? So, and there is a duration. It's not a forever thing, but it depends on your mindset. The ghosts usually have a really poor mindset, and some of them will stay in a place for centuries. But they don't like clean places. They like, not so clean, but, things that smell good don't attract them, typically.
And what is this about the whistling attracting ghosts?
Yeah, whistling is, it's said to attract ghosts.
Tracy hates whistling. Whenever I'd whistle, she'd say, "Stop doing it."
Very inauspicious. The Americans, and I guess the Westerners in general sometimes have this thing for whistling. And when Prabhupada first heard the devotees whistle,